Morning, Wose family and friends. I hope this morning has been as blessed for you as it has been for me. As my grandfather used to say at the beginning of his services back in the early days, my grandfather was a minister. He had always started by saying, first giving honor to the Most High, the esteemed ministerial staff, members, and friends. Welcome to the Sunday service, Zoom service for Wose. Wose is a community of the sacred African way. The way is Ma'at, truth, justice, and righteousness. We believe in the teachings of our elders and our ancestors that the Creator, the Most High, created the universe and all life and has placed in each of us a part of the divine spirit. God living in us and through us has given us the right and the power to establish peace and justice in all human life. The true harmony with the creation, we believe in the living faith of our ancestors. And with that, we want to welcome you. We want to welcome each and every one of you to come and celebrate with us. This is the time in the program for our historical tribute when we illuminate a particular person, place, or something that have person, place, or event to bring attention to it. And none other than our dear brother, the hard-working, the diligent one, probably more known for historical tributes than most, at least down in Oakland. I'd like to call forth our dear brother, Brother Ty, if you can come in and share with us some of that knowledge that you have, sir.
Good morning, Wose. Good morning, Brother Sidney. We've come to that time in our service that we call our historical tribute. It's a time that we take out each and every week to pay honor, to pay homage, to pay tribute to some significant, not necessarily famous, but significant person, place, event, or organization in our history. I actually had a bad week last week. There were several things happened to me that made my week unpleasant, including some of 45's crazy moves as we move toward the upcoming election. And so now I'm also having another problem here in that I'm not seeing what I wanted to share. So I'm going to have to do this, I guess, without, can you see that?
No.
Okay, I'm going to have to do this without pictures, I assume, because it's not coming up. Okay, moving right along. I was scheduled to do the historical tribute last week, and because I had a bad week, I didn't do it last week. And so I'm doing it this week, but I changed the topic. This week, before I get to my actual subject matter, I want to talk about courage, courageous brothers and sisters in our struggle, right? And I want to start with John Lewis, right? John Lewis was a courageous brother, as we all know, and there should be a picture of him up, but I can't find it. But John Lewis was a courageous brother. I know that he was a courageous brother because when I was a boy, I saw him. I saw him in all of the courageous people that were in the civil rights movement. And I know that they were courageous because I saw them when they faced white racist mobs, and I saw them getting beaten bloody, you know. And I used to say to myself, and when I was a boy looking at them, I couldn't do that, you know. I don't have that kind of spirit in my heart. So they were courageous. John Lewis was a young man in the 50s when he was a freedom rider. Thank you, Mama Darnisha. Go to the next one, please. John Lewis was a young man in the 50s when he was a freedom rider and when he was arrested in Mississippi. John Lewis was a young man when he led people across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, next to Mama Danisha, and when he had a fractured skull and thought he was going to die, when he was trampled, next one please, Darnisha, when he was trampled and beaten, that's him in the foreground there, beaten with a billy club and had a fractured skull, right? Everybody in the nonviolent movement was courageous. Everybody was courageous, but not everybody was nonviolent. Next one, please. Malcolm X taught us that we needed to have weapons to defend ourselves, right? In our movement. In fact, the first Black man that I ever saw with a weapon, next one, please. The first picture I ever saw of a Black man with a weapon was Malcolm X, and he had this weapon to defend himself and his family. But on November the 10th, 1963, Malcolm X actually told us, told Black men that we were afraid. Hold on, sorry.
That doesn't involve bloodshed, and you're afraid to bleed. So if you're afraid to bleed, long as the white man sent you to Korea, you bled. He sent you to Germany, you bled. Your own churches being bombed and little black girls murdered, you haven't got no justice.
Okay, now there are not many times that I say that Malcolm X was wrong, but Malcolm X was wrong about this. Throughout our history, there have been examples of Black men arming ourselves, to protect our men, to protect Black men, women, and children, to protect the community. And let me say here, whenever I say courageous and I say Black men, I also, if I don't say it, I also mean women. So if I say Black men and don't say women, say it to yourself, and women, okay? Mm-hmm. So but we have always been, even when we fought to defend ourselves, we have always been outmanned and outgunned. One of the best examples, next one, Darnisha, one of the best examples is Black Wall Street. As Sister Nikishi told us just a few weeks ago, over 100 years ago, in May of 1921, Black men armed themselves in an effort to protect a young brother who they thought was going to be lynched. They went into town and they offered their service to the sheriff, who turned it down. Now, when the whites saw what they said were niggers with guns, that was all of the excuse that they needed to burn down the Black town, to burn down the section of Greenwood. Now, I believe that it was inevitable that Greenwood would be burned down because the whites hated it, they didn't want it there, and they were looking for an excuse. And had it not been this, they would have found one eventually. But the point here is that we have tried to defend our Black people, men and women have tried to defend ourselves and our families. And so that I am encouraged now by the new group that's on the scene. Next picture, please, Mama Danisha. By the new group that's on the scene, the NFAC. Now, they have come out and said they want justice for Breonna Taylor, but they are Black men, Black people who are and they come out to protect Black people who are exercising their right to protest. As you know, white armed groups have showed up trying to intimidate the protesters. They have come out to protect Black people. Okay, so they put me in mind of the two brothers from Oakland who took Malcolm X's teachings to heart and to the streets. Next picture, please. And I'm talking about the two brothers from Oakland, California, Brother Bobby Seale and Brother Huey Newton, who founded the Black Panther Party in 1966. Now, the first actions of the Black Panther Party were they armed themselves and they followed the police around the community, trying to stop police brutality. They were courageous brothers, okay? So now as I get to the real topic of my historical tribute with the little time that I have left, back in 1967, after the Panthers got started, the state of California wanted to pass some laws to make what they were doing illegal, okay? So Huey Newton made some plans to send some armed Panthers to the state capitol in Sacramento. Okay? Now, he told Bobby Seale, I want you to go to California, to Sacramento with these brothers and read a statement from the courthouse stairs. Be armed. He said, don't start anything. Don't be offensive. But if anybody raises a gun at you in anger, fire on them, defend yourselves, okay? So now Huey Newton didn't go. He stayed back because he was on probation and he didn't want to get busted and arrested. And because he knew that if something happened, he would be able to raise money for bail or whatever else. So on next donation. So on May the 2nd, 1967, 24 brothers and 6 sisters went to the state capitol carrying arms. Bobby Seale did read his message. In fact, he read it twice. Now, all of them were arrested. And that night, Huey Newton went on the radio and he was able to raise over $50,000 in one night for bail so he could get the brothers and sisters home. Okay, and this was the third time that I had ever seen, Black men arming themselves to protect the Black community. The second time was the picture of Huey Newton in front of the church. So you can stop sharing the screen, Danisha, thank you. So let me say one last thing before I sit down. I realize that it makes people uncomfortable talking about guns, and I think that that is unfortunate, right? Given the fact that the pendulum of history is slowly swinging back toward the 1950s, and there's no telling where a 45 is going to take this country, especially with this election that's coming up, I think it makes sense for us to heed Malcolm's words, right? Now, I tell you, I am afraid of the police, and I'm not ashamed to mention that, but I'm more afraid of white, armed, racist mobs taking over the streets of our city. So I want to close with a question for you brothers out there. Can you defend your family? Are you prepared to defend your family? And my last question is to the sisters out there. Are you prepared to defend your family? Because shooting a gun is not just, learning how to shoot is not just a man's responsibility. So this morning's service is dedicated to the courageous men, women, and children who risked and who gave their lives in an effort to move our struggle forward. It's dedicated to the courageous, nonviolent men, women, and children of the civil rights era, people like John Lewis, C.T. Vivian, and John Lowry, all who recently became ancestors. It's dedicated to Brother El Haj Malik El Shabazz, we know him as Malcolm X, who tried to teach us. His last breath was trying to teach us. It's dedicated to the courageous men, women, and children in places like Greenwood, the section of Tulsa that was burned down, places like Rosewood in Florida, Negro Fort in Florida, Charleston, South Carolina, and the brothers and sisters who stood with Denmark Macy, Southampton, Virginia, and the brothers and the sisters who stood with Nat Turner. It's dedicated to Bobby Hutton, Bunchy Carter, John Huggins, Fred Hampton, Mark Clark, and all of the members of the Black Panther Party and other organizations who were gunned down in what the police called shootouts, but what we in the RNA at the time called shoot-ins, because it was always the police surrounding us and shooting in at us. And it's dedicated to all of our courageous ancestors, those named and unnamed, who risked their lives, and those who gave their lives to move our struggle forward. And I want to close with the last lines of a poem written by Claude McKay, If We Must Die. And it says, "O kinsmen, we must meet the common foe. Though far outnumbered, let us show us brave, and for their 1,000 blows deal one death blow. What though before us lies the open grave? Like men we'll face the murderous, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying, but fighting back." Thank you, Will.
Come. And now it is that time in our service where we want to do the litany of sacrifice. And I will invite Mama Ngina and Brother Desmond to come on in and to assist us with the litany of sacrifice. Ashe?
Ashe.
And I would like to start off the, and this is a time where we know that we're not together, but life does go on and things still have to happen. So the ways that you can participate are listed on the screen. And now we would like to just remind us that we still have to do things. We still have a wonderful school that is going to be away from the building, but we still have things that we have to do. It's wonderful to see everyone this morning, your beautiful faces. And now we will do the litany of sacrifice. And it is, save us, O Holy One, by your name. Vindicate us by your might. Hear my prayer, divine protector. Listen to the words of my mouth. How can we repay the Holy One for the gifts that have been given to us? We will lift up the cup of salvation and call on the God of our ancestors. We will fulfill our vows to the Creator in the presence of all our people. Gladly, Most High, we bring our sacrifices to you. We praise your name, O Amun-Ra, for it is good. Umoja, we shall strive to maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race.
Kuji Chagalia, self-determination. We shall define, name, create, and speak for ourselves.
Ujima, we shall build and maintain our community together. Our brothers and sisters' problems shall be ours to solve together.
Ujamaa, cooperative economics. Together we shall build and maintain our own businesses and together profit from them.
Nia, purpose. We shall make our collective vocation the building and development of our community and the restoration of our people to our traditional greatness.
Kuumba, creativity. We shall do as much as we can in any way we can to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than when we inherited it.
Imani,
Imani, faith.
all together. We shall believe
with all our hearts.
Our hearts and our Creator, our people, and the righteousness and victory,
of our struggles. Ashe.
Thank you, Mama, again, and Brother Desmond. And another one of those good, hard praying sisters, boy, that is Mama Ngina, you know. I can see her, and I always hear her voice when I'm listening to the prayers, and quietly I'm saying thank you. And with Mama Ngina, she puts that emphasis on thank you to take it way back. She knows how to show her appreciation and to give all praises to the Most High. Ashe. You know, from time to time, I'll insert some of my my thoughts and some of my family history. And this is another time right here that my mom had 9 sisters and 1 brother. And what that meant is I had 9 aunties, and my uncle's wife would make 10 aunties. And let me tell you, from once I was very young, I used to always say to each of my aunties that you're my favorite auntie. Hey, Auntie Sophie, you know you're my favorite auntie. Auntie Esther, you're my favorite auntie. And I feel like that when I get into the service, because as we move around, every part is one of my favorite portions. I say that the historical tribute, that's my favorite part. And then we hear the prayers of Mama Conke and Mama Ngina. That's my favorite part. So, and the music, the music, that's my favorite part. But along those lines, because it's coming from my heart, this right here, the message is what? One of my favorite parts. Yes, indeed. And I'd love to hear the sister speak. We have Minister Alicia, and she is such a gift, such a blessing, that calm spirit. You know, she breaks it down so plain and so simple. You know, as you sit there and listen to her. And I love to hear this sister speak. She again is one of those prayer warriors. You know, so right now I would like to call Mama Minister Alicia, if you can come bless us with your message. Ashe.
Greetings, everyone.
Greetings.
First and foremost, Baba Tai just pretty much said my whole message. So yeah. But that's what happens, you know, when you're on the one, the Spirit will speak to all of us, and we will all be on that message. We will all be on that thought process. We will all be on that vibration. So today, I'm going to read to you from 2000 Seasons, page 307. And it's kind of like in the middle of the page where it says, parents willing to be slaves should have children born to be slaves, for they have deserved them. We do not refuse the call of love, but let it be love growing along the way. And if the paths to the way are all now the hard paths of constant fighting against triumphant destruction, we crave no other procreation than that possible along these paths. The children we aspire to bring here, we should not be for them merely a horrid warning. How beautiful if growing up they saw us always fighting death, and by their natural learning grew also along the way, and saw the way as a natural aim of life. Ashe. I'm going to also read to you from the Hosea, from the book of Kunanub, page 33, number 6, where it says, one who lessens falsehood encourages truth. One who supports good diminishes evil. Even as satisfaction comes and ends hunger, and clothing removes nakedness, even as the sky becomes calm after a storm and warms all who are cold, even as fire cooks that which is raw and water quenches thirst, he who cheats diminishes justice. But justice rightly given neither falls short nor brims over. Do not delay. Deal with the matter at hand. If you separate, who will join? So from these texts, from our freedom writings, we're going to speak today about hashtag how we fight. So within this past time, maybe a couple months ago, there was a brother who was shot on my street. And although, you know, it wasn't someone that I hung out with, someone that my kids hung out with, it's someone that I saw pretty often. It was a young man. He was about 22, 23 years old. And we always used to joke, me and the kids, as we, you know, would be driving by, coming into our parking space, and we'd see him and we would say, oh my gosh, he looks just like Aki. So it was, if you guys know what my son looks like, this is what this brother looked like pretty much. And so that was a tragedy on my block. And it was a tragedy in my spirit because it was a young brother. Then about a week ago, my neighbor, just direct neighbor, I live in an apartment, so right across from me, a young brother who I saw often, who my husband had just went out and hung out with, he died in a car accident. And again, although I didn't really talk to him, I didn't really know him, it was still a tragedy. He was a young brother, also in his 20s. Then 2 days ago, my old boss, who I had just reconnected with from Fortune School, where I used to work, her husband passed away. And even though he wasn't in his 20s, he was a man of God. And he just passed away. And so with all these things, I feel like, you know, death is everywhere. Death is all around. And when we see these things and we experience these things, it's trauma to us. It's tragic to us. We are living in uncertain times, but haven't all of our time has been somewhat uncertain. We never know what tomorrow is going to bring. We are living in times of immense police brutality. But anytime unenlightened beings are training other unenlightened beings to have authority over who they think is the enemy, you have police brutality. I noticed, during this time when we're talking about police brutality, I've seen videos from all the way across the globe, police brutality. And that stuff is worldwide. It's not just in the US. So we are living in times of sickness and disease. But as long as there has been people who interact with other people and people who are eating certain things, you're gonna get sickness and disease. Just this right here doesn't seem regular because it's man-made. So there is a cause of concern, but we also know that there are ways to keep ourselves safe. We are fighting things here that we've always fought here. The difference is that now the world is still, and we see it happen, and we don't have the distractions of mind and body that we were having. Then came the rage and the protests and the breaking and the burning and the looting. Agree or disagree about what the people were doing, it got attention. It got attention around the world. And that attention caused more breaking and burning and looting all over the place. So here we are in the middle, at a place to make some decisions. Now, in my 20s, I would be there at the marches, screaming till I had no voice, perhaps the one with the bullhorn. Yes, that would be me. And in my 40s, I could still go out there and yell and march and bring my older children along to teach them to stand up against injustice. But I'm not there. For some reason, I hear about these things while they're going on or after they have already ended. I'm not there. So what do I do? How do I support? How do I fight against this evil system and teach my children to do the same? I don't want my children to be slaves, and I don't want myself to be a slave or a parasite, so what do I do? There's really no more time for preparation. The time to act has come. I've been talking for years and saying for years that, okay, we need to prepare. Our prayers, our meditation, all that stuff is preparation for when it's time to fight. All the reading, all the studying is there for when it's time to fight. But right now, brothers and sisters, it's time to fight. My preparation was the 1,001 hours I spent at the altar, the 1,001 hours I spent in these holy books, the 1,001 hours I spent studying our history. It is time to fight. Now, fighting doesn't always look like two boxers in a ring or a street brawl or gun violence, but sometimes it does, brothers and sisters. A few places that I have seen, a few people I have seen has been arming themselves. Brother Ty showed videos, a picture of brothers arming themselves now, walking through the streets with rifles. Okay, well, there's our militia. But there's more things that we can do to fight back. Because, he did mention, many times we are outgunned. It's like almost we have bows and arrows and they have atomic bombs. You can post signs in your neighborhood about Black-owned businesses so that people can go and support their own. We must lift our economy, We can talk to Black business owners about their support of the Black community. Do they donate to a Black youth group, for example? So we have to hold that accountable. That's in Ma'at. That's called reciprocity. So yes, I want to spend my money with the Black owner, but is this Black owner putting back into the community? We have to ask these questions. do our research to ourselves, and ourselves support Black businesses, and let what we do be a lifestyle. Like, this is where I buy my clothes, and this is where I buy my household items, and this is where I buy my shoes, etc. Find Black farmers and buy produce from them. I'm currently searching for a Black-owned gas station. There used to be one here. It was a Chevron, and I knew the man who owned it, but he passed away a long time ago. But I haven't seen one since. I haven't known of one since. And so we need to share these things. If we know of one, we need to share with each other. That's a way to fight back. We fight through rejection of walking their path, and we walk our own. 2000 Seasons says, for us to realize the way, have the way come into reality. That would mean fighting against the white road, the white people's system for destroying the way. We must choose our way. In Dr. Obinga's 25 Dimensions of Ma'at, he lists every sphere of reality and placed Ma'at there so that we can see where Ma'at reigns in that territory. In religion, in the cosmic realm, in the political, the social, the anthropological, Ma'at is everywhere. And if we get closer to mastering, raising our Ma'at vibration in every aspect of our lives, we are tipping those scales. We are fighting, we are winning. Many of us are too PC to really rock Ma'at because we are so worried about keeping our friends or our ties. But guess what? When this hype dies down, we may still look around and find that Black people still don't have no friends. We have no friends but us, and we ourselves have been conditioned not to be friends to ourselves. 2000 Seasons says that there is a deliberate sickening of our people, since only from our disease could the white destroyers hope to get the things that they have come looking for. So that leads me to the next thing that we should do in order to fight. Get healthy. We've been sick for so long, we probably don't know what healthy feels like. We don't all the time know what it looks like to be healthy Africans. We must pay attention to what we put in our God body on all levels. Watch what you eat. Watch what you're looking at. Watch what you're tasting, what you're experiencing. Watch what you're watching on television. Watch what you eat. It's hard because I don't believe there's anywhere on the planet that has such contaminated food. I could be wrong, but it seems like everything in the US is contaminated. Okay, so you want to eat vegetables, but they want to contaminate the vegetables and make them GMO and do all this kind of stuff. We can't even eat a good vegetable. But all our food should be blessed. Have a vibration of love when you cook. Pray over your meal and have deep gratitude while consuming. When you're making the meal, make sure your head's in the right space because you're putting your vibrations into the food that you are cooking. And even though somebody may use that as some way to harm it, when you put your spirit and your vibration into that food, it's not going to harm you. Don't overeat. If you're like me, sometimes we might eat more than what just satisfies the body out of fear that we won't get more or that we don't have enough if we get hungry later. Some of us have been conditioned or taught, eat everything on your plate, and sometimes we don't need everything on our plate. We just need enough to satisfy the body. Because when you overtax your system, then your system is using all its energy to digest your food. Eating all your food towards satiation, towards, oh, I need to go to sleep now. You know, those things are very real in my house because there are 10 other people And sometimes if you put your food down too long, or if you say, I'm going to save this food and put it in the refrigerator and I'm going to eat it later, you can come back and it's gone. But that's just fear. So you change your thinking to, I can eat until I'm satisfied and then stop. Food will be there when I'm ready to eat again. All the food is not going to be wiped off the planet. So we have to know we're not missing out if we don't eat right now. We need to get healthy. And
We can't hear you, Minister Alicia. Just dropped out for a second. There you go. Can you go back 2 minutes for us?
Huh?
Can you go back 2 minutes? You actually dropped out for about 2 minutes there, and we were all hanging on your every word.
Oh my. Okay, so let me see. Go back 2 minutes. Okay. So I'll start. I'll rewind. So that leads me to the next thing. So getting healthy. We've been sick so long that we probably don't know what healthy feels like. We must pay attention to what we put in our God bodies on all levels. Watch what you eat. It's hard because there's such contaminated food in the US. A lot of times you might even look in Europe and they have such stringent, things about their food. The US doesn't have that. There's food here that's banned in other places and we're just allowed to eat it. But all our food should be blessed. We should have a vibration when we're cooking. Pray over your meal and have deep gratitude while consuming. When we're cooking our meals, we need to make sure that we have a good vibration over the food that we are cooking so that our bodies can be healthy. You put your good vibrations in it. Our bodies can be healthy and the people that are eating the meal that you are cooking can be healthy. Because what could have been intended for ill health for us, we want to create it and make sure that it is going to go into our bodies for good. And for us to be grateful for the food that we are consuming. And we don't want to overeat because sometimes we overeat out of fear that there's going to be a lack of food. We overeat out of fear that for some reason we might think that there's not going to be no food for tomorrow. But God has told us that he's going to supply all our needs. God has told us that he's going to supply that food for us. In my house, there are 10 other people. So sometimes you might overeat in order to make sure you get that food in because you might come back and that food's not going to be there. But that's just fear. And we're here to eradicate fear, ignorance, and superstition. So I changed my thinking to, I can eat to satisfied and then stop. There will always be food there when I'm ready to eat again. So one of my favorite meals is the beans and rice and cornbread. That's one of my favorite meals. My mom used to make it all the time. And there's not going to be a lack of beans and rice and cornbread. So if I don't stuff myself today with beans, rice, and cornbread, it's not like there's never going to be another meal of beans, rice, and cornbread available to me. So I don't have to stuff myself with the beans, rice, and cornbread, even though it's my favorite. All the food in the world is not going to be wiped off the planet. We need to get healthy in our bodies, but that also includes our minds and our emotions. Many times our minds are unhealthy with the stinking thinking. We are negative towards ourselves and others, and this is not Ma'at living. At WOW, Women of Wose meeting, we looked at page 6 of the Hosea. In page 6 of the Hosea, it says this: the seeing of the eyes, the hearing of the ears, and the breathing of the nose are communicated to the heart and mind. And the heart and mind cause all perceptions to come forth. And what the heart and mind think and wish is declared by the tongue. So were all divine powers created, and the company of divine powers completed. Indeed, every word of God came into being through that which the heart and mind thought and the tongue commanded. And so this says to me that when these things are aligned within ourselves, our hearts and our minds, we can then create, we can then manifest, we can then speak life into the world instead of death. And once you're speaking life, and you're speaking life, and you're speaking life, and once you're manifesting, and you're manifesting, and you're manifesting, and once you're creating, and he's creating, and she's creating, we're tipping those scales. We are tipping the scales. There's less negativity. There's less destruction. We are tipping those scales. So in 2000 seasons says, we are faced with a people whose manifest purpose in life is to destroy life. It says we are people of the way, people of creation. Where lies our fidelity? That is a question, which means we have a choice. If we are healthy in mind and body and spirit, there is no question. You would never align with destroyers. You would never align with conquerors. You would never align with those who offer to spare our individual lives in return for our acceptance of their destruction. Those that bribe us into accepting our own death. We would never align with them. So that's part of that healthy mind. We must identify with the God within, and the Hosea says that Amun-Ra takes no bribes. So we are identifying with the God within being Amun-Ra, and he takes no bribes. There's no way we should be able to take no bribes. The more we identify with God within, the more we are continually in the presence of the Most High. This is being healthy in our spirit. Depression is real, especially during this time. This time when we are inundated with death tolls, we are inundated with police brutality, we are inundated with sickness, all these things. Stop traumatizing yourself. Stop watching everything they put out. Stop clicking on videos you know is going to trigger a negative, angry response. Rest your spirit for a while. Sing a silly song, or a song from your childhood, or play a song that brings you joy or makes you dance. Lift up your vibration. Meditate daily, not just on Sundays at 10 o'clock. I'm going to talk about that for a second. Minister Imhotep asked this morning, who does meditation more than just here on Sundays? And many of us said that we did. Keep doing that, because what happens is when we come to this place, we are supposed to bring our fire from the week. We're supposed to be fired up from the week because we have been doing our prayers. We've been doing our meditation. And we come to the group, I've got my fire. He has his fire. She has her fire. We bring it together. And so every single meeting and every single time we get together, it should just be a spiritual explosion because everybody's bringing their fire, because everybody's been doing their work during the week. Practice your self-care. Ladies, paint your toes. Men, I don't really know what men do, but men do a few push-ups and then look in the mirror. I don't know what men do to have their self-care, but whatever it is that you men do to have your self-care, do that. Do your hair. Put some rosemary in hot water and let it steep. And when the water cools, put the water in your hair as the rinse. Look in the mirror and find something you love about the image you see reflected. These are things that we can do to help ourselves. We all need self-care. We all need to take the time to care for ourselves. Because if we don't replenish what's in here, there's nothing that we can give. Nothing. Just like when they say, if you don't love yourself, there's no way you can love anyone else. And that's just the way we have to understand. We have to love ourselves. If we don't love ourselves and we don't know the love of God, there's no way we can love someone else. There's no way we can love our people when we do not love ourselves. So, Minister Alicia, what does all that have to do with fighting? Well, if your mind, your body, your spirit, and soul are at odds, how are you going to fight anything and win? You need to be aligned. You need to be healthy. We need each other as strong as can be, because this is not a fight that one or two people can fight and win. This fight is going to take a collective, but that collective starts with you. That collective starts with me. That collective starts with the individual, and then it branches itself out into our homes, our families, our communities, our nation, our race. Fight this fight on every level. Don't go down their road or participate in it. We have directions that we need to follow. We have the Hosea, 2000 seasons, stolen legacy, destruction of Black civilization. We have ancient future, Muwada Ashby's Egyptian yoga, Ra Unefer Amen's Metu Neter in its umpteenth volumes. We have Amos Wilson's comprehensive blueprint for Black power, and we have so many more books and videos. YouTube, don't waste your time on YouTube. Put on Amos Wilson on YouTube. Put on all the historical figures that are talking to you about yourself and what you should put that on YouTube. Other than that, don't waste your time looking at it. We have so many things that we can draw from. But honestly, I hope you've already read your plethora of books, because how we fight now is through actions. Amos Wilson wrote Blueprint for Black Power a long time ago. It was published in like 98. In its 889 pages, he spoke over and over about nationhood. Marcus Garvey was around in the 1900s. He promoted nationhood as well. Building a nation within a nation. We are fighting against this system, and the time to do the work is now. Most High has given us all gifts. We need to use these gifts to the glory of the Most High. If you like politics, fight there. If you like music, fight there. If you like writing, fight there. Ma'at is in every place that is ours. Use your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to raise that Ma'at vibration wherever you are. Because to know Ma'at, you have to do Ma'at. We have to have the fight in every aspect. There you go, Blueprint for Black Power. In every aspect of our lives, in every aspect of our being. Don't think that you have to do every single thing. You don't have to be the militia and the writer and the singer and the this and the that. You can do your part and what you need to do, and let that be that. Fight your fight. Because a lot of times we say, it's so big, how can I do this? And how can I fight against this big thing? If I do my part and you do your part and he does his part and she does his part, we have a lot of people doing the parts and fighting. Because I can't do politics. And I can't sing either. So those are not my lanes. I try to sing, I want to sing, but So we have to understand that they're hitting us in every level. They're trying to destroy us at every level. Every time you turn around, it's something negative about African people. You turn on the TV, negativity. Look at a billboard, negativity. Open up a magazine, negativity. And it's all pointed at us to destroy us. 2,000 seasons have told us this is strategic against you.
Yes.
So what makes us think that we shouldn't fight 360 degrees as well? So don't just think the fight is out there on the streets. That plays a part, and I am not against it. I'm not against the Black militia. I am not against arming ourselves. I'm not against any of that. I think that you can do that and so much more. I think there can be a group of people who does that, a group of people who is praying, a group of people who is meditating, a group of people who is doing their juju, a group of people who is doing all kinds of things in positivity for African people. So how we fight? Yes, put Black Lives Matter sign in your window. And not just do that. Actually live your life as though Black Lives Matter. How we fight? Put up posters in your neighborhood and get on social media about Black-owned stores people can shop in. And don't just do that, but you yourself go shop at these stores. How we fight? If you are able, mentor a Black youth. Join an organization you believe in that pushes a Black agenda. Stop supporting businesses that don't support us in the spirit of reciprocity. See, the thing is that when you talk about Ma'at, you have to do Ma'at. You have to do Ma'at and experience Ma'at for you to know Ma'at. There's no knowledge of Ma'at from a book. You can get that understanding, but you don't really know what you're talking about. You have to know that you know. So when you know that you know, you have to do that reciprocity, which means if you're not going to support the Black community, then I'm sorry, I need to find some Black business that does. You can write a children's book. You can put out a song, start a healing circle, eat better. See, we think that a lot of these things have to be grand gestures because it seems like such a big problem. They don't have to be grand gestures and stuff that is out of our reach. There's a lot of things that we can do. Be positive. Be life affirming. Cook a neighbor some healthy food. Don't be greedy. And the Hosea says that greed is a vice, a bundle of all kinds of evil and a bag containing vices of every kind. Let go of that greed. It is not of Ma'at. It is not of the Most High. We've got to be content being in the position that we want nothing that they have. They can't bribe me. I don't want anything that you got. So how can I be bribed? What? You want to give me what for exchange of? No. This is the battlefield of the mind because we've been conditioned to want everything that they have and do anything to get it. But just know, in our weakness, Amun-Ra's strength is perfect. Rely on his name. How we fight? We draw closer to Amun-Ra, having our heart and mind in alignment. So when we speak, we create that which is good, that which is right, that which is holy. And that, my friends, tips the scales. What are these scales? When the Hosea tells us on page 34, number 3, page 32, number 3 of the Hosea, it tells us what the scales are. The balancing of the land lies in Ma'at, truth, justice, and righteousness. Do not speak falsely, for you are great. That means don't be lying. Amun-Ra made you a great person. Just you yourself being you. So don't sit there and start lying. There's no reason for it. Do not act lightly, for you have weight. Be not untrue, for you are the balance, and do not swerve, for you are the standard. You are on the level with the balance. If it tilts, then you will lean too. Do not drift, rather steer. That means don't be following all these people. Understand where you are supposed to go and steer your boat in that direction. No matter if you see the masses going this way, but you know Most High told you to go that way, Don't be following all those people. Do not rob, rather act against the robber. It doesn't say sit by and let the robber rob. It says, don't you rob. That means don't you take something from someone else that doesn't belong to you, because that tells you that you don't trust the Most High to take care of you. If you're robbing and stealing from people, you're supposed to act against the robber. For one is not really great if he is great with greed. If you turn your face from violence, who will punish the wrongdoing? That's telling you what the scales are. That's telling you how to balance off this evil that we are seeing. It's telling you how to balance off the negativity that we're seeing. It's telling you how to balance off sister girl down the street who's always gossiping about everybody's business. That's telling you all about that. That's telling you, okay, brother who can't keep it together and is always hitting on his girl. It's telling you how to balance that off. You act against that. And if you don't have the courage to go up and be like, oh, let me get in the way of this, you have to work and fight at it however you can. However you can. So the more that we do and spread on the side of righteousness with our head and our heart aligned. Now, to have your head and heart aligned, some people might not understand how to align those things because we don't understand sometimes where they're disconnected. And I'm going to give you one example of that. A lot of times, your heart will say, I want to be one with all. I don't want to be violent. I don't want to be a violent person. I'm not a violent person. And your mind will have you, oh, let me go and eat this cow, eat that beef. That's violence that was able to bring that to your table. That your head and your heart are not aligned. Now, I'm not saying I ain't never ate no chicken, and I'm not saying I ain't never ate that, but I'm saying that is not an alignment. When your head is telling you one thing and your heart is making you do something else, or your heart is doing something and your head is telling you to do something else. In your actuality, what you say is who you need to be. If you want to be one with all things and you want to be harmonious like Ma'at is harmony. If you're not harmony and balance in Ma'at, those are places that you work at in order to get your head and your heart aligned. You have to get those things aligned, because then when you're able to speak in Ma'at truth. And they can call you Ma'at Karu. You don't want to sit there and be off and not understand what Ma'at is trying to tell you. It might not always, it's not easy to give up your favorite foods. No, it's not. My husband cooks the best chicken in the entire free world. So in order for me to get my head and my heart aligned, I'm going to have to let it go. And that's just the honest truth. Okay, in order to get the Ma'at balance and get my head and heart aligned, I'm going to have to say, can you make that with some tofu? I'm sorry. That's just how it's going to have to be. Or I can't say that this is going to be, I'm not going to be able to speak. I'm not going to be able to speak that into creation. I'm not going to be able to say, my head and heart aren't aligned when I'm saying, oh, I want to be harmonious and I want to be like Ma'at. No, you don't, because you don't want to give up the chicken. No, you don't, because you don't want to give up the fish or the this or the that, whatever it is. It ain't even got to be food. I'm saying what you say out your mouth that you want to do, you can create, but you have to have your head and your heart aligned, because that's how the Most High created this universe. Okay. So the more we do and spread on the side of righteousness with our head and our heart aligned, the more the Most High can show his presence in this world. And what we create out of this current turmoil will be good, because we cannot go back to the way it was. Love must prevail this time. And that's why we have to all gather and fight. We all have to gather and fight. Whether we're fighting in the streets, whether we're fighting with your dollars, whether we're writing letters to the Congress or letters to this or letters to that, or if we're fighting in our spirit. And I want to talk about that for 1 second. You can fight this in your spirit, because you know what? This is a spiritual fight. The negativity that it's not these people that is doing this. It's the fact that they have allowed themselves to be used by evil spirits. And because they're allowing themselves to be used by evil spirits, we who have the most bank in the spiritual realm can fight against it. We just have to understand where our power lies, because we have been spiritual people from the jump. So we have a whole lot of money in the spiritual bank, much more than anybody else can fathom. We might not have access to atomic bombs, and we might not have access to all the rifles and the military and the this and the that, because that's not what we're about. But we have communities upon communities upon communities that know spirit. And if we understand that this fight is not against a certain person, if we understand that this fight is not against even a group of people, we have to understand that we're dealing with demonic forces, and we need to fight against it. And we can fight against it. And that's where we can win. So whether we fight in our spirit or whether we fight in the ways of all the above, we must fight this beast and let the children see us fighting and teach them how we fight too. So I'm going to read to you again, 2000 Seasons. It's on page 307. Where it says, parents willing to be slaves should have children born to be slaves, for they have deserved them. We do not refuse the call of love, but we let it grow, let it be love growing along the way. And if the paths to the way are all now the hard paths of constant fighting against triumphant destruction, we crave no other procreation than that possible along the paths. The children we aspire to bring here, we should not be for them merely a horrid warning. How beautiful if growing up they always saw us fighting death, and by their natural learning grew also along the way, and saw the way as a natural aim of life. Ashe.
Ashe, ashe, ashe. Thank you, Minister Alicia. The word has been put out there. And I love when she talks about the battlefield. The battlefield is the mind, the battlefield of the mind, and that she wants you to know, what are you going to do? How are you going to fight? And one way that I can think of, I'm going to ask Minister Makalisi if he can share with us a way to join this this movement. Makalisi, could you open the doors for us?
Ashe, ashe. Minister Alicia, what an awesome, powerful, beautiful message with the spirit of my resounding from start to finish, every point in between. You know, it took my mind back to what Sister Akanki started out with the opening prayer circle. And one of the passages talks about, I made every person like his or her fellow, and I did not command them to do evil. It was their own hearts and minds which caused them to disobey. Yeah. You know, we've got to be engaged in this fight. It's got to be 24/7, 365, teaching our children, sharing with our family and friends, and just being a living model of this direction of truth, justice, and righteousness for our people. And so we do want to extend the invitation. If there's someone here is your first time being here, or you've been here a few times and you thought about, well, maybe I want to be a part of that community, part of that movement. That was a time you just could speak up and let that wish be known. We have to fight this battle. It's got to be every day in every sacred way, with everything that we encounter. And know, as Sister Minister Alicia has pointed out, that there are those forces out there that they never rest. And when they do rest, they got the computers running, and a big part on their agenda is how can we undermine those African people? How can we get rid of them? How can we instill self-hate and divisiveness within them? No, we have to be fighting that battle. And so we extended the invitation. We're doing all we can. Yeah. And we know there's more to be done. We're trying to learn and understand what that is. So we encourage you to join us. You might have some understanding, some ideas that are going to take us to another level.
Yes, sir.
So if there are any out there today, let it be known. Take your mute off and say, "Here I am."
Yes. Thank you. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Jump on that chat line. Just put in a few words. Hey, I want to join this this movement here. I remember hearing Brother Kwame Ture speak a number of times, and one of the things he said is just to organize, to join something. Join the NAACP, the AME Church, the RNA. Just join something, because you do better working as a group. And our doors are open, as the minister has laid out there for you. We need more hands, all hands on deck to join us. And so right now, we would like to bring this service to a close, but some powerful words written by the James Weldon Johnson on Lift Every Voice, and it will be presented by Brother Charles. Brother Charles, can you come forth and bring us the closing music? All right. Is he there? If not,
I think Darnisha might be muted, but Brother Charles had to leave. Unfortunately, he sent me a note, and I don't know if Mama Darnisha has the video that I sent. It is the women of the Calabash singing Lift Every Voice and Sing. Otherwise, you'll have to listen to me. And you know what I mean? So
I've got that audio. We will have an audio.
All right.
You mean that's not your lane?
And as we stand together, holding hands virtually and holding our hearts out for one another to be a part of, knowing that we are walking along the path that has been walked by our ancestors in the past, that we were walking along and following in the direction of the way. We want to say that we are one people, holding one faith,
one faith,
one aim,
one aim,
one destiny,
one destiny.
And as we call on the name that our ancestors have called for so many years, let us all say,
Amen. Amen.
You are the most beautiful people on the face of this earth.
Ashe.
Hey.
Ashe.